humanity needs to realize we don't get to pick where we're born.
Right.
People are born wherever they're born, and they don't have a choice in that. So immediately, from the moment they're born into a country and become a citizen of that country and are forced, their lives are governed by those laws
Right.
that are pre-established. And they have to follow the rules in which are currently in place in that government without having to have the opportunity to take part in establishing those rules.
Hello, and welcome to episode 38 of the Liberland Show. I'm your host, Adam J. Carswell. Today we are joined by another Adam Ernest. Adam is the representative of Liberland to the state of Colorado. Adam, thank you for coming on the show, and do you have any opening remarks for our listeners?
Adam, thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm super excited to be with you on this interview today. It's been a long time coming. I've been involved in the Liberland project for a while, and I'm really excited to share my story.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you here. And if my memory serves me correctly, I don't think I've had another Adam on the Liberland Show yet. So this is a good milestone moment for us here as well. I noticed you kind of came onto the scene. Well, I should put it this way. You may have been involved with Liberland for a while, but it seems like your voice has really become prominent within the community, probably within the past 6 months or so. So tell us a little bit about your journey as a Liberlandian. How did you get started? And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Awesome. Happy to do so. Yeah. So my involvement with the Liberland project actually dates back to 2015.
Wow.
Yeah, so really back in the beginning when things were just getting started. It's actually a pretty interesting story. At the time, I had just founded my software development company called Follow My Vote. We had partnered with a blockchain, a public blockchain platform that was developed by Dan Larimer and the core BitShares developers back around in 2015 or so. So I was there working in their offices. My company was leveraging their technology at the time to work to build an end-to-end verifiable blockchain-based voting system for use in elections worldwide. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was literally sitting at my computer, doing some research, scouting around online to see what opportunities there might be to pilot our software in various countries throughout the world. Someone shared a link on the BitShares forums that says, "Hey, there's a guy out there starting his own country. Someone who's creating their own country is eventually going to need their own voting system. At least you'd think so." So I was like, "Wow, that's fascinating." I was just like blown away. I was like, "Wait a minute, starting your own country? Wait, come again?"
Right.
I thought all land on Earth had been claimed. The countries were what they were, and that was never going to change. Here I am, like working to focus on building a business, building a company. And I learn of someone else out there trying to build their own country. So I was like, wow, this is at a whole nother level. I was like, I really need to, do some research here. I need to understand what's going on because, it always fascinated me, thinking back to the founding fathers of the United States, right? Like they were a group of well-off individuals that weren't really happy with the way things were running in their own countries. And they had an opportunity to move to a new land and start over and build a framework in which people could live out their lives, in freedom. And I always wondered, what would it be like to be in that room with the founding fathers, and try to start over, given the opportunity. So I was like, this project is fascinating in so many ways. And I want to, not only do I want to see if there's a way that we could work together, but perhaps there's a way for me to get involved and help Veet on his mission to start a new country. So I kind of took a look I signed up online on the website just to get on their mailing list. And I found out that he was going to be at Freedom Fest in a few days. There's a conference that's held in Las Vegas every year in July, and it's called Freedom Fest. And Freedom Fest 2015 was coming up. I had just learned of the conference, but I found out Veet was going to be there. I immediately booked a flight and flew out, and I was just determined. I was like, I'm going to find Veet at this conference. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to talk with them, I'm going to learn about this project and figure out how I can get involved. And wouldn't you know it, the very first night I was there walking the conference floor, I bumped into Veet and Tom.
Yeah.
And, we just started having a conversation, and it was just fascinating to learn about how Veet got started, where the project was at. And it became clear they were nowhere near ready, to start talking technology and building out a voting system and software. They had bigger fish to fry. They're literally trying to start a country, and in the process of gaining international recognition. And I said, wow, okay, this is way bigger than I imagined. And, I want to do anything I can to participate and help Veet, on his journey. So at that point in time, I was living in Virginia at the time, in Blacksburg, Virginia, actually.
Okay.
Because I had graduated from Virginia Tech and went back to my alma mater to start Follow My Vote. That's where I met Dan Larimer, and we got involved in the BitShares project and all that.
That makes sense. Yeah, because I know he's a Virginia guy.
Yeah. He and I actually graduated from Virginia Tech in the same year. My background is actually in business and marketing, where he was computer science.
Cool.
So
yeah, I've been to Blacksburg before too, and I lived in Northern Virginia from 2015 through 2018. So that's cool. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah. So that's kind of where it all happened in Blacksburg, and that's kind of where things came together. I learned about the project, flew out to Vegas, met Veet, and then from there I said, you know what, I'm in Virginia. I'm close to DC. I don't know if it makes sense, to bring me on, as a representative of Liberland to the state of Virginia. And he said, sure, absolutely. And so I immediately offered to serve in that post. And for the next year, I did so. It was a great opportunity, actually, to both cross-promote Follow My Vote and Liberland. And Veet and I kind of traveled around for the next year. We went to a bunch of different conferences, and I was kind of right there to help spread the word and kind of recruit others to get involved in the project and to help out. This is a huge endeavor. Like, that something hasn't been done like this, as far as I can recall, since the founding fathers with America. You know what I mean? So I was like, this is a historic moment, and I want to be involved. And I when I got to meet Veet, I got to know him pretty well, and I knew that he was a good person, a good guy, and he was doing the right thing, for the right reasons. And so for that reason alone, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to do what I can to help him out. And it was kind of cool. We finished off our kind of tour at the 1 year anniversary for Liberland. Actually, I flew out to Croatia, and we celebrated Liberland's 1 year anniversary.
Oh, wow.
That was an amazing event. And just to see people come from all over the world, people really prominent in the tech space. It was a really cool meeting of the minds, and really awesome atmosphere and event to be a part of. So that was kind of like my first year being involved in the Liberland project. And to your point, I had to. There was a period of time where I had to focus on other things and take some time off, and then I ended up moving from Virginia to Colorado. And so now that I'm out here in Colorado and have got my bearings here, I reached back out to the folks at Liberland and to Veet specifically and said, look, I'm ready to help out again. Where can I help? Plug me in. Over the last 6 months, I've been trying to dive in and participate wherever I can and really help further the movement. Help in establishing this country.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing your story, because that really helps me. For a moment there, I was like, man, I didn't do my proper research on Adam because I didn't know you had been around with Liberland for so long. So thanks for the context there, and thank you, I should also say, for your service, because anyone that's been there from the beginning helped us get to where we're at today, which is including having this interview right now. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Another thing that you said earlier, and I love that you brought it up, because I try to mention it as much as I can on the show as well. But kind of like it's almost like liberty and freedom has a spirit that it's like water. There's never going to be any way that anyone could actually stop it. It's going to find its way through the cracks in the wall or through the dam or whatever. And it seems like 200 or 300 years ago, whatever, when people began leaving Europe and coming to the US, it was that same spirit of freedom. It was that same, okay, let's try and do things new. Let's try and do things different because this system clearly isn't working, or at least we think that we have something that will work better. And to your point, all the land has kind of been taken up now, as far as we know. But now the spirit of freedom kind of prevails, and there's an opportunity for, again, that same feel. Now, obviously, you and I weren't living back then, but what we would assume is that same feeling of let's try and do this better for everyone.
Right. I mean, you know what humanity needs to realize is that, we don't get to pick where we're born.
Right.
People are born wherever they're born, and they don't have a choice in that. So immediately from the moment they're born into a country and become a citizen of that country and are forced, their lives are governed by those laws
Right.
that are pre-established before they were born. I mean, literally people are, and they have to follow the rules in which, are currently in place in that government without having to had the opportunity to take part in establishing those rules. So essentially, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're essentially not free. I mean, in that sense, because someone else is telling us, hey, these are our rules. You have to live by these rules.
That's so true.
And it's like, well, time out. Wait, I didn't get to pick these rules. I didn't get to take a part in this. I didn't agree to this. And it's like, wait a minute. When you get to a certain point, you realize, wow, maybe there are certain things about the country's laws that I live in that I'd like to change. Maybe I don't necessarily even agree with the entire way the government is structured.
Right.
You have to question things and say, is there a better way to do this? Humanity should always strive for continuous improvement. At this point in time, things are what they are, but it doesn't mean that they can't change. And it doesn't mean that they can't change for the better and that they can't change to be more agreeable to the public. And it's unfortunate too, because I mean, a lot of people, you talk about mobility, right? I mean, so to a certain extent, no one gets to pick where they're born, right? And they have to just follow the rules in which are established for them. And if they want to try and change those, let's say if you live in a democratic country, for instance, there may be mechanisms by which you can try to work through the system to change the laws so that your environment becomes a place that you want to live in, that you feel comfortable living in, and you don't feel the need to leave. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't have that opportunity to work through the system to seek the change, to get the change that they want to see, so that they're happy living where that they're living. So they're kind of stuck where they're at, and a lot of times people will say, well, if you don't like it in this country, you can leave. Well, that's not really true, because most people can't, are living paycheck to paycheck throughout the world. They can't afford to move down the street, let alone pick up and move to a different country that may have more favorable laws.
Yeah.
So for the most part, people are stuck where they're at, and it's a little bit unfortunate. But when I see people, like Vít, for instance, he was very successful, in the Czech Republic. He was a very successful businessman. He did a lot, he accomplished a lot, but he got to a certain point where he said, you know what? There's got to be a better way.
Right.
There are things about this country that I want to change, but I can't change. He set out to say, what, if I can't make the change in my own country, I'm going to take on the challenge of starting a new one. I'm going to build a new model, to make that old model obsolete. The whole Buckminster Fuller quote. If you want to change the system, don't work within it, build a new model and make that old one obsolete. Yeah. So I think that's what's really, Vít is doing here. And I respect him for that. I mean, because really what it is, it's about creating an environment for people to live in, really creating competition at the state level. And because when you think about it, I mean, people are the world's most valuable resource. I mean, people can argue, data or oil. I mean, data just recently surpassed oil, but I would argue that people are the most valuable resource. And we're getting to a point where people are making enough money to where they have mobility and they can pick up and move and travel from country to country, and move to places that they feel more at home, that meets their needs. I mean, you're seeing people, the rich people in the United States, leaving in droves right now for countries with more favorable tax laws and things like that, because they can't. And unfortunately, I can't say I blame them. If they're not happy here and they want to take their wealth and go somewhere else, well, they'll be more happier. all that means is that that other country did a better job at creating an environment that person wants to live in than the United States has.
Yeah, and you make another point there, something that, and you also referenced Freedom Fest, Freedom Fest earlier. We just finished doing a series of interviews at Freedom Fest. For everyone listening, if you didn't get a chance to check those out yet, go ahead and check out the last few episodes of the Liberland Show. But there at Freedom Fest, when Doug Casey was speaking, who we also had a privilege of joining us on the show, one thing that he said is, if you're someone who's passionate about true freedom and liberty and being able to make your own choices and not have someone make those choices for you, you don't have to necessarily fall in love with the real estate. You don't have to fall in love with the actual land or wherever it is that you live in. What you should focus on is falling in love with the idea, because an idea is not physically tied to one place. Getting to know Doug Casey, that's clearly something he's done. He's lived in over 10 or 15 countries. He's been to 155. And so just want to reinforce that message to, I guess, to you, Adam, but then also to everyone who's joining us today.
Yeah. There is, I think, a spirit of freedom. And I don't know, I can think back to when I was a child and just questioning everything, question authority, question laws. Why do I have to do this? Who said so? Things like that, I get a little frustrated at times because it seems like people are just accept the status quo for the most part. Things are the way they are, and that's where they'll ever be, but it doesn't have to be that way. We can experiment right here in the United States. Every country, the citizens in every country can experiment with new governance models. Democracy is currently mainstream because that's the best we've come up with so far. You know what I mean? But who's to say that that's the best we got? We should always strive to improve and experiment with new governance models. So what I'd really like to see, and what I like about Liberland is it's one grand experiment. Liberland is experimenting with the new governance model, and I'm fascinated by it, and I can't wait to see how things play out, because we might find that there's a better way to manage society, or for people to interact within a society. I think Liberland is a huge opportunity for humanity in that regard. Humanity needs free places to experiment. We should not just deal with the status quo. We should not accept the status quo ever for anything. So I hope that over time, people throughout the world become more open to experimenting with new governance models and look at Liberland as a beacon of hope and a beacon of light, an opportunity to see if we can do better. That's really why I got involved. I was really proud to be a part of it, because it's a fascinating project, and there are so many good people that are involved and that are working on it and that have really put in some sweat equity to get things to where they're at. The initiative and the movement will only grow stronger in the days ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better myself. And we are winding down a little bit on time here, but I do have to get your take on the Liberland Aid Foundation, which is something that you've gotten pretty involved with recently. And then also we'll talk about how our listeners can get in touch with you and follow up if they have any questions.
Sure. Yeah, the Liberland Aid Foundation is a really great project. It's near and dear to my heart. I can't take credit for it. I'm really just stepping in at this point and offering to help out and utilize my digital marketing background to really get as much exposure to the Liberland Aid Foundation's website and initiatives that we have going on currently. That website, by the way, is liberlandfoundation.org. There have been a couple of guys that have really, on the Liberland team, that have really put in the time and effort to establish the Liberland Aid Foundation as a nonprofit organization. There was a lot of hard work that was put into it. And we finally got in a position where we're all set up. We're a legit nonprofit, and we're now accepting donations to the Liberland Foundation. Awesome. Yeah, so it's a big milestone to have achieved. But what we're really looking at is it's a humanitarian project. We're looking at areas around the world where Liberland can provide aid. Whether it's education programs, whether it's books, donating books, and libraries, establishing libraries, things like that. Just to the underserved populations of the world. So it's really a benevolent initiative and something like I said is near and dear to my heart, and I'm proud to be involved in. And yeah, I'm really excited about blowing things up online and making sure that our website and this initiative is discoverable as possible, and that we get as much attention to it in the days ahead as we can.
Yeah, we definitely got to get the word out more, I would say. I know for me, sometimes it is difficult when it comes to making donations and finding a charitable cause to give to, just trusting it and knowing that it's going towards something that you actually care about or are passionate about. So to have you even re-emphasize that to me right now, it's got me thinking.
That's great. So as far as my contact information, again, I'm the currently the representative of Liberland to the state of Colorado. And if you're interested in connecting with me on anything Liberland related, my email address is colorado@liberland.org.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to wrap this up, Adam, but any closing remarks for our listeners?
We are a very passionate group of people that are doing what we're doing in an effort to create an environment where we think people will want to live, that people will live, be happy, and have a true feeling of freedom. That's something that is golden. And, we really encourage anyone, if that appeals to anyone, being part of something like that, if that appeals to anyone, we really encourage you to connect with us, find a way to get involved in the project. Keep in mind, this is not something that is going to happen overnight. Starting a country doesn't happen overnight. Starting a company doesn't happen overnight, let alone a country. So right. We need all the help we can get. Any of this conversation, this interview has rang true. If any of this appeals to you, be sure to reach out to me or anyone else in the Liberland organization and find a way that you can get involved. We need all the help we can get, and it's highly likely we can find a place for you.
Absolutely. Adam, thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you, Adam. I appreciate the opportunity to interview with you today, and I'm looking forward to working with you and the rest of the crew in the days ahead.
Absolutely. All right, guys, this has been episode 38 of the Liberland Show. Today we were joined by Adam Ernest, representative of Liberland to the state of Colorado. I'm your host, Adam J. Carswell. Thank you for tuning in, and we will catch you in the next episode. Guys, if you enjoy listening to the Liberland Show, be sure to check out my own personal podcast called Dream Chasers. On Dream Chasers, we interview individuals with supernatural amounts of potential based on early success in their careers. Go ahead and do a web search on it. Again, my name is Adam Carswell, Adam J. Carswell. Go ahead, type in Dream Chasers, and it should pop up for you to listen there on any platform, YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, iTunes, etc. Thanks for tuning in to the Liberland Show, and we will catch you in the next episode. Thanks.